Alright, I have to redo this video because the last one did not have my mic. I didn't realize that it did not have my mic on it, and I'm actually mad. I didn't realize it till just now when somebody told me from my Discord. Alright, update 3.11 brings new dinosaurs, feature improvements, and more to Jurassic World Alive. Blonde, which is an epic, has instant cunning strike, group devouring impact, and precise pierce rampage with blighting piercing counter and critical obstruction. Its DNA can be found in arena incubators with the release of 3.11. Then we have Brunette, which has cleansing formation, defense shattering revenge, alert devouring impact, defensive counter strike, no escape. Its DNA is going to be available on the map. And then we have Amplerex, which is a unique hybrid, a unique fierce resilient hybrid of Tyrannosaur Buck with Ampelosaurus. This fierce resilient unique hybrid is ready to take on the competition. Fuse your own Ampelosaurus with the Tyrannosaurus Buck in the lab. It has dispersed superiority. Jeez Louise. Dispersed superior vulnerability, taunting resilient group impact, fierce devouring rampage, medium ferocious piercing counter, stunning obstruction on escape, and swap and invincibility. And that's not all. Look out for new dinosaurs arriving in your world over the next several weeks to discover new species and hybrids making their debuts in this year in Jurassic World Alive. Ever make it to the last node in the ESA event only to have your team wiped out seconds away from glory? Us too. And having to start back from node 1 isn't very exciting either. Good news, starting with update 3.11, some ESA events going forward will let you revive a fallen creature, bringing it back to full health and continuing in the node you're on. Now accidentally misplaying and losing Rexy at the first round of the ESA will no longer devastate your progress. Cost to revive team members will vary based on rarity and may scale if revived more than once within the same event. Collection navigation UI improvement. With over 400 creatures, we know the collection menus can get quite full. We're introducing some new features in the collection menu to make it easier to find just the dinosaur you're looking for. We've added fast scrolling with a new scroll bar graphics so you can whip through that collection faster than a Velociraptor can pounce. You can now search any dinosaur name via text entry. As you type, the list will be filtered and sorted for you. It accepts and searches any part of the word, so AJA would include Rajasaurus, Bahadasaurus, and Diorajasaur and all the hybrids and all the respective hybrids. Dinosaur Updates. A bunch of dinosaurs got some tune-ups. Read on for details. Toro, our first dinosaur on the rebalancing podium this year, is a scary Carnotaurus from the Camp Cretaceous series Toro. We've given him distraction immunity and tweaked 2 of his abilities, Threshing Impact and Decelerating Cleanse. You can read about the modified abilities further down below, but we'll tell you right now, this theropod is going to absolutely be terrifying in group settings going forward. Gains distraction immunity and resistances. Aeromosaurus, this legendary antlered sloth has been sleeping for far too long. It's time for it to get out, okay? It's time for it to get out of its slumber to join the fight. First of all, its camouflage and digging abilities have been combined into one, camouflage digging, and we've added superiority impact to fill the newly emptied ability slot. We've also boosted its health and attack. We're confident these changes will prevent this creature from being slept on, and that you will remember you will remember it when you're building your team. Camouflage becomes superiority impact. Diggin becomes camouflage diggin. Health increased by 200 and attack increased by 50. Grylenkin, this legendary feather bearer was pretty good as is, but we've noticed it tended to get left behind during team selection, so we thought it might be time for a slight shift in the way Grylenkin can be used. To accomplish that, we've created a slight version of the disarming decimate ability, where the creature will not automatically swap and will also distract the opponent and make it do less damage. Also, we've added the swap and dodge ability, so now instead of running away from battle, it will run towards it. It's Terror Bird time. Disarming decimate and run becomes disarming decimation. Swap and dodge added, speed increased by 1. Rincha Scion, another legendary bird getting a slight update. This one is very straightforward. We've already made changes to this one not long ago, so we won't be touching its moveset for now. We've given it a slight health boost and some stun resistance. It's Terror Bird Part 2 Electric Boogaloo, health increased by 450 and getting 50% resistance to stun. Dakota Nops. Whenever we add a new behavior to the game, we always like to dust off some old creatures from the attic and give the creatures new purposes, utilizing the new effect. This is what we're doing with the Dakota Nops. It was in serious need of some love, so we've revamped its kit to add cheat death into it with a new ability, Relentless Endurance. We've also given it some more dodge opportunities with sidestep and defensive swapping. Its health and attack stats are also getting a serious buff, and it is now resistant to swap prevention. Watch out for the dangerous undying beast on the battleground. Distraction becomes sidestep. Distracting impact becomes Relentless Endurance. Defensive swap and added. Health increased by 300 and damage increased by 200. Gained 75% resistance to swap prevention. Monomimus, this old fan favorite creature, received a nerf a while ago, making it less than impressive. So it seemed like a perfect match for our list of creatures to remix with the new cheat death ability to make it fun and exciting again. Monomimus will receive a new swap in ability, swap in death defying dodge. It will also get darting counter, and its fourth ability will be replaced by sidestep. By the way, a lot of these creature buffs, you're going to realize everything just gets cheat death slapped onto it, which does not do much of anything because it can be nullified. There are ways around cheat death by applying like a DOT, etc. It's not a good change, and it's a really stupid change to everything. Evasive stance becomes sidestep, darting counter added, cheating dodge added, even though that's not the name that it says up here, because up here it says swap and death defying dodge, but that one just says cheating dodge, so we don't know what the name is because there's two things that contradict each other. Entolimyth, this tusk pit has been left behind by the herd, so it's time for the Entolimyth to have a comeback and learn the art of war. We're starting with a big increase to its attack stat and a slight speed boost. We're also upping its resistances to rend and damage reduction and gave it full immunity to DOT. Finally, we've replaced its bellow ability for a fierce, precise rampage and added counter ferocity to its kit. As a wise man once said, if fighting is sure to result in victory, then you must fight, and we will definitely think you'll want to fight with this guy. Bellow becomes fierce, precise rampage, counter ferocity added, attack increased by 400, speed increased by 1, gains immunity to DOT. Gains immunity to DOT, 50% resistance to rend, and 25% resistant to distraction. Kula Borgiana. Outside of being an ingredient for its unique hybrid, the Kula Borgiana was not so cool. We're hoping that these changes are going to shift that and that it will be useful in battles as well as hybridization. We're raising its attack stat, taunt resistance, and making it immune to damage reduction. Its third ability is being replaced by a new ability, Baiting Rampage, which will reduce the opponent's damage while augmenting yours and hitting the opponent with some serious damage. It will also receive Distracting Counter, and we've made a slight change to the instant invincibility ability now that it's cool. Distracting Impact becomes Baiting Rampage, Distracting Counter added, attack increased by 200. Gains immunity to distraction, 50% resistance to taunt. Rajakylosaurus. Geez, talk about a dino in need of a buff. This legendary hybrid has been in the game since launch and has not received an update since then. Almost all of its attributes are getting an update, and it will finally receive some resistances that were totally absent. From now on, it will be immune to speed decrease, vulnerability, and reduced armor. It will be resistant to stun and damage reduction. For its moveset, it will receive instant shield impact as well as a new ability, Invincible Blighted Strike. How do you do, fellow kids? Taunting shields becomes instant shielded impact. Instant invincibility taunt becomes invincible blighted strike. So it's a strike that can be nullified or broken with a shattering move. Okay, good to know. I just realized that. Health increased by 200, attack increased by 200, speed increased by 3, critical chance increased by 15%, critical damage increased by 25%, that's pretty big. It gains 75% resistance to distraction and stun, and gains immunity to speed decrease, vulnerability, and reduced armor. Kulasukas, another perfect candidate for the cheat death treatment. This epic amphibian was released a long time ago and has been one of Jurassic World Alive's least popular dinos, so we've added to dial the cunning up to 11 and give it a revamp. First of all, it will receive Ambush on Escape, which will give it the cheat death effect and some other surprises if the opponent tries to run away, and it will see its third ability replaced by Blighted Dodging Impact. With that, a buff to its attack stat and some new resistance to speed decrease and stun. Group Distraction becomes Blighted Dodging Impact, Ambush on Escape added, and attack increased by 200, gains 50% resistance to stun and decel. Sinoceratops, this epic fan favorite needed a little help to remain a favorite, so we're doing that. Most of all, it was lacking resistances, so we've given it resistances to reduce damage, vulnerability, and swap prevention, and it will be immune to stun. It will also receive an attack and health stat boost. And we're adding on an on-escape move with stunning obstruction. Let's hope no one gets a concussion the next time this brutal tank is encountered. Stunning obstruction is added. Health is increased by 250. Health increased by 250. Attack increased by 400. Gains 75% resistance to swap prevention and distraction. Gains immunity to stun and 50% resistance to vulnerability. Gorgonops, just like its unique hybrid. Just like his legendary hybrid, this creature is going to join the cheat death family. When we picked the Dakotonops as a candidate for the new effect, we felt it only made sense to also give it one of its ingredients, and here we are. The Gorgonops moveset will now be composed of Cunning Strike and Cheating Impact, and will also receive a slight upgrade to its attack stat. See, this is going to be a buff to a creature that does absolutely nothing, as is some of the other ones. Distraction becomes Cunning Strike. Cunning Impact becomes Cheating Impact. attack increased by 150. Game experience improvements. The team has been hard at work improving your Jurassic World Live experience. Starting with a 3.11, your device will not fall asleep in matchmaking or during battle, regardless of the amount of time you may stay inactive. Ability updates. Decelerating cleanse now cleanses all teammates and yourself, and then cleanses all targets, including yourself and teammates on the battlefield, so only your team, so it's team cleanse. I don't know why that was not specified better. Attack and reduce speed now targets all opponents, and affected creatures changes Arturo. Threshing impact, which needs nerf immediately. Cleanse all now targets teammates as well as yourself. Add a 50% damage increase lasting 2 turns for attacks for you and your team. Added break shields targeting the lowest HP opponent. Automatic swap behavior removed. Cooldown reduced to 1 and added a 1 turn delay. Affected creatures Toro. It needs a cooldown of 2 or 3. But, JMD likes to add things that are busted. Maybe not on creatures, but the moves are just busted. Instant invincibility now has a reduced cooldown from 3 to 2 and has an extended shield duration from 1 to 1 turn for attacks. Bug fixes. When sending mini expedition drones, players will no longer be temporarily locked out of the game. Stegosaurus will now be an eligible dino and expedition drone. Strike events will correctly become transparent after completion. And Brawl ability icons will now reflect that the ability is on cooldown, and then working on the issues like Battle Pass and friendly battles, which will never get fixed. Overall, this update sucks. It did not address any of the issues that needed to be addressed, like Alankai-Daclys needing a nerf, Griganith probably needing a nerf, needing buffs, things like Dollars Orion, Indochus Scion, what else? Probably Glyptosaurus, and I don't know what nerfs the Comps Venator, etc. And Magnoraptor, but there are far more important things to focus on in the game, like the absolutely terrible buffs that you give to creatures. Like with Rincha Scion, you didn't need to add a health increase in stun resistance. That's not the issue with Rincha Scion. I can tell you that right now. That's not the fucking issue. And you should have just given it the expedient critical counter that Ovi Lincoln does, because if you gave it that would help it out tremendously. I know that through testing. Just simply giving Rincha Scion expedient critical counter is much better than giving it the health increase and stun resistance that you decide to give it. Like, that was not needed. That was the one thing that would have made Rincha Scion so much better, and it is such a simple change. And then with Greth Lincoln, its issues are not what you think. It struggles with Phlox. It loses to Sealhost. I think it might lose to Sinocoraptor. I could be wrong, though. But it loses to things like Sealhost, which it's always lost to no matter what the buff has been. Sealhost has always beat Greth Lincoln. And then, so I would just made Devious Strike, Group Devious Strike, or Disperse Devious Strike, whatever you want to say. And then I would have probably changed the Disarming Decimate move to not be a Decimate, but give it Immobilize like Gryposuchus has, which I think would be a very grand change for Greth Lincoln. And then other than that, I think that's about it that I would give a change for Greth Lincoln. I don't think I would buff anything else other than Greth Lincoln, other than giving it Disperse, Devious Strike, and then changing the Decimate into an Immobilize, because Immobilize is a good move. And then you have things like the Gorgonops, that's not going to do much of anything. Dakotonops, that was not much of a buff at all. That's not what Dakotonops needed. I would have given it Precise Revenge, Rampage, the thing that Alberticevia and Megalocevia have, instead of just Precise Impact. Or I would have changed Cunning Impact or whatever it is to Precise Group Distracting Impact. And then I would have maybe given it Distracting Counter or Bait, seeing how Dakota Raptor has Counter Frosty or whatever it's called. And then I would have changed, actually I could just show y'all. I just tried to show you the changes in Toolbox, and this was not here earlier. You now have to watch an ad to gain 12-hour access to the site, which is a terrible fucking thing. Like, this site already has ads, and then now you're going to make it to where you have to watch a 30-second ad if you want to do anything on the fucking app, really? Or not app, website, whatever you want to fucking say. Like, that's fucking stupid. Okay, we're going to look at Dakotonops first. See, I went ahead and I buffed it to, I think I buffed its attack and health and speed, and then I gave it the Group Cunning Speed Up Strike, which would help it because it's essentially just a Group Accelerate Cunning Strike. Literally, it's what Glyptosaurus has, but I also amped it up a little bit, which would help Dakota Nups tremendously. I gave it Revenge Precise Impact, which makes it more of a revenge killer, which we don't I don't think we really have many of those in the legendary format. And then I gave it Precise Group Distracting Impact instead. So I think it had, I forgot what it had before, because I think it had Distraction, Precise Impact, Distracting Impact, or Cunning Impact, and then some other move, I forget. I could be wrong though. But these changes I gave it, and then I gave it the counter that Interruptor has, and then I gave it immunity to the pin. These changes I think would be beneficial for Dakota Ops and bringing it back into the meta, unlike Jamdia with the pathetic attempts at buffs that Jamdia gives to creatures. And then with Rajakylosaurus, I would say this is less extreme than what Jamdia did, but I like what Jamdia did with Rajakylosaurus, but I feel like it should have just been a revamp to its kit. So instead of, I mean, you could keep group taunting shields. So I would maybe do instant shield, impact group taunting shields, and then instead of the instant taunting invincibility move or whatever Rajakylosaurus has, and I'm not talking about the new change, I'm talking about what it has now. I think it has instant invincibility taunt. I would have just made that taunting resilient group impact or whatever Antarctopelta has and whatever Rajasaurus had, and then I gave it the blighted piercing counter that Rajasaurus has, and then I gave it critical obstruction like Rajasaurus, and then I gave it resistances, which it did not have, but Jamie went one step further, making it immune to decel, reduced armor, and vulnerability, which I did not do. But I think this buff would have been sufficient enough, but Jamie could have done something a little better, and then potentially amp up some of the already made changes like the attack. And then I don't really have anything else to really show you other than what I explained already, because I don't have anything for Kulaborgiana, Kulasukis, etc. But like I said with Grindlinkin, it should have just got dispersed, and Devious Strike, and then potentially made the Disarming Decimate move into just change it entirely into Immobilize, like when Grindlinkin was first introduced, and then maybe instead of swap and dodge, I would have gone one step further to do the funny, and I would have given it swap and critical dodge or whatever Ovi Lincoln has. Like, that's pretty much turning it more into Ovi Lincoln, but I feel like that would have been better than just a simple swap in dodge. Because say your opponent goes for like a resilient strike or just a move that removes dodge or cloak, it then does not have any benefits from that other than gaining a 30% crit chance from its counter. So I feel like swapping critical dodge or whatever it's called would have been a better option for Grindlinkin, but I feel like that might have been making it a little bit too air quote OP, but I feel like that would have been better. And then the Gorgonov's buff, that's nothing. But I feel like a major change that needs to happen to the game is if it's a creature has Defense Shattering Strike, just simply give it Fear Strike, so like what Perlith has. And then if a creature has a simple Distraction Strike, like Gorgonops, Sinocotoraptor, I don't know what else has that in the game. But if you just have the basic Distraction as your basic move, I would just go ahead and I would change all the creatures to just get a simple Cunning Strike, or even just some kind of version of it. So like Disperse Cunning Strike, Group Accelerate Cunning Strike, Fear Strike, Group Fear Strike, Cunning Fear Strike. Just improve on those abilities. And then something like Carnotaurus that has Vulnerability Strike, maybe change that to Resilient Strike. And then also a thing that needs to happen with the game is fixing creature classes, because it says that Carnotaurus is a wild card, which means that it's all three classes, but it's not, because it's not cunning at all. And then same with Dinotherium, Andrewtherium, etc. None of those creatures are all three classes, and those changes are some things that need to happen, but JMD doesn't give a flying fuck about this game anymore. And JMD doesn't care about addressing the actual issues at hand, like Alenkaidaclys not being checked at all, because its counters that it has rely on RNG, or something like Grignith, the most sufficient counter for an Alenkaidaclys. Guess what? That Alenkaidaclys can just swap out into something that has a swap and attack like Saw, Megalocevia, Dracolux, etc. Like I know that things like Saw and Megalocevia aren't going to shatter or bypass the armor that of Griganith, but it's still damage that's able to be done, and then it allows Alankydactylus to then just get out of dodge for free. Like it can be pinned by Skewer, yes, but that's not really going to do much because say you get pinned, you just go for Dragon's Breath and you're going to be fine. And then with Tricovenator beats Alankydactylus if Alankydactylus gets pinned when it tries to swap out. And then Monolamith beats it, but again, Alankydactylus can just swap out, and then I think Monolamith does rely on RNG, and then Dialer's Orion can beat an Alankydactylus head-to-head, but again, Alankydactylus can just swap out against the Dialer's Orion, and then Indochine can be an Alankydactylus by going Illusion into Skirmish, but you have to get a crit on the Alankydactylus, and the Alankydactylus obviously has to stay in, when the Alankydactylus can obviously just go for Strike or Dragon's Breath and then swap out and take a Breaking Impact. Yes, but it's just going to be able to swap in and Rally Heal from swap in Invincible Heal, and then after that it can go for Dragon's Breath, which is a full 1x heal compared to 33%, which is one flock member. Like there's no check, like there's no complete check with Alankydactylus. It's like how Concuttalock was after it got buffed and how it was released, because when it was first released it had little to no counters. I don't really remember, but then to fix the mirror match issue, which Alankydactylus has, there are plenty of people who are having matches time out because of Alankydactylus mirror matches going on forever, with obviously no winner, there being a stalemate, and then the match just gives out after I think it's like 20 minutes. A match can last before it times out. But, you know, instead of addressing that issue, just completely ignore it, push it under the rug, buff things that essentially get buffs that don't do anything at all, unless you're like Rajakylosaurus, because that was an actual good buff that it got. But with Concuttalock, when it got fixed with the mirror matches, it got buffed, like mega buffed. And then that made it pretty much invincible to anything in the game until some nerfs came to the heal, and then that nerf was reverted, and then it got nerfs to, I think, armor and attack. No, it got nerfs to armor, and then its impact became 50% chance to stun instead of 100. I don't know what else happened other than that. But eventually Concuttalock did become checkmate with new creatures added. But with things like Amplerex being added, most players aren't going to have the ability to get Amplerex in a short period of time, because the Amplosaurus event that was introduced to the game like a week or two ago, it was removed after a day or two of it going on because players were constantly crashing from sending out all these drones and things. So players like myself don't have any real source of Amplosaurus DNA other than FIPing an Amplosaurus or Amplosauruses in sanctuaries, which does not give you a bunch of DNA. Even though I have level 20 sanctuaries, it doesn't give it like the most sufficient amount of DNA compared to an actual event or way to get it. And I think Amplosaurus was made as an event exclusive, which needs to stop happening in the game, because some players can't afford to do that, some players don't want to do that, or some people don't want to award. Well, people obviously have other reasons for not wanting to do it, whether it being player doesn't want to spend money in general. Maybe the player is like how I am, where I don't want to give money to the game right now because I'm not happy with the state of the game, because JMD is clearly not listening to the community and what it actually needs. But then you have things like Griganith. Griganith obviously has counters like Skunamet. Rogerrixis can be a counter to Griganith. So you have Skunamet, Rogerrixis. Dialer's Orion can be a counter, but again, Griganith can just swap out. I don't know what else there are, because I can't think of any off the top of my head. Potentially Comps of Ender, but it can't be stunned by the Griganith Skewer. And then Indochine can be a Greganith, but the Greganith, if it has enough health, it can swap out on Indochine, even if the Indochine goes for a cloak, and then it's gonna hit the Greganith with a devastation, but that devastation will not bypass armor because on escape breaking impact is not the best in the game. It sucks, honestly. And then Concuddalock can be a Greganith, but it has to stun the Greganith, and the Greganith can always just swap out. And then Concuddalock can't be stunned by Greganith either. Like, pretty much right now, the top 3 creatures in the game have counters, but then Greganith can be beat by Nomrex quite sufficiently, but again, Greganith can just swap out because it's immune to swap prevention, which it shouldn't. But like the top 3 things in the game right now, Alunkydactylus, Greganith, and Comms Vendor, it like all 3 have counters that rely on RNG to beat said creature. So like I said already, Trichovenator, Greganith, Indochine, Dilizarian, Monolith, etc. Those things all can be Alunkydactylus, but those all are very heavily reliant on RNG, and it's very small RNG to beat said creatures. It's not like 50-50. I think Alunkydactylus is 67% resistant to pin, and Skewer is 100%, so it's a 33%. And then Trichovenator, it's again 33%. I don't know what Monolith is, but it's probably not RNG at all. But Dilizarian, Alunkydactylus can just swap out. Monolith, Alunkydactylus can just swap out. Indochine, Alunkydactylus can always just swap out or just stay in and hope that the Indochine does not get a 25% crit on Skirmish after going Illusion. And then Comms Evander can't be stunned by Concuddalock, but then Comms Evander can also just swap out. Comms Evander can't be stunned by the Greganith. I honestly don't know what else. But there needs to be balance because the top 3 creatures obviously need nerfing. And then Nomrex needs a buff. Not much of a buff, but I would increase its... I would give it stun immunity and higher resistance to pin. And then I would give one of its moves, maybe its counter, just a shattering effect. Not bypass armor, but maybe just shatter because it struggles with shields. And it loses the ability to shatter shields, even though Foyrex has that. But it just loses that ability completely. And then Indochine is in desperate need of a buff. I would buff its resistances and attack and its stats. And then maybe improve illusion because illusion's not that good. It's just a cloak with acceleration. I would just make it to where it's like prolonged sidestep, where it's 100, but like also make the chance to dodge. No, I wouldn't say make it 100% because that would be pretty OP for a cloak move. So I would just say make it cleanse all negative stats effects, dodge, and then the 3x damage. I think that would be sufficient, the cleansing, because it has no way to cleanse completely. And then make cunning, dodge, impact, remove increased damage and crit chance, and then remove crit chance and distract. And then honestly don't know what else. Maybe make the strike cleanse vulnerability, make it a fear. Yeah, just make it a fierce critical strike. Simple. And then I think that's it that I would do. And then with its counter, make it do damage like Indoraptor. Make it do a 0.5x counter attack damage. And then make the bait and like make the ferocity and blight both 25%. And I think that's going to be sufficient on Indoraptor. And then Dilizarian, I don't really know, but I know giving it Revenge and Nullifying Rampage would be a good option. But Dilizarian is an issue, is like, it is a revenge killer, yes, but other than that, it has a terrible turn 1 and only has Crafty Strike or the Blighted Impact move or whatever it's called. So it doesn't have a healed turn 1 like Dilizarian has. I think. I could be wrong. And then with Monolith, it's good, but not enough people use it. And Greganith is just too oppressive in the meta to use Monolith. And then so is Alunkydactylus. And then you have things like Trichovenator against the Monolith. And then Monolith is one of those creatures that has a bad turn 1 because it only has the stun move. which creatures are resistant or immune to stun. Obviously, a lot of things in the meta are. And then has Dispersed Fierce Strike, so it doesn't have the best turn 1. And then Trike of Venator, I think it's fine as is, but I hate it because it has a terrible design. I hate it. It's terrible. It's worse than Concuttalock. And then Stegotops, it's top Apex, like it's in a high Tyrant, but I would maybe give Stegotops group Shielded Heavy Strike or like a Fierce Heavy Strike or something. I don't know, and then maybe give it an On Escape because both Monostegotops and Ceratosaurus both have an On Escape. Monostegotops having Dig and On Escape, and then Ceratosaurus having no escape. So I would give Stegotops either Dig in On Escape, or I would just give it no escape, or even maybe like a Disarming, no escape, critical obstruction, something to that degree. And then I honestly can't think of anything else at the moment. Maybe buff Rajadrix. I know that's crazy, buffing Rajadrixis again. I would probably make it immune to stun. I would make its Ren resistance higher, and then I would make Berserk Decimation bypass armor as well. And I think that's it for that. And then after that, I don't know what I would do. But the buffs that Glutea or Jamdi is giving to creatures in the game is not sufficient enough to do anything. For instance, the Nundasuchus and Irritator Gem 2 buffs that were received 1 or 2 updates ago made no impact in the meta. The creatures stay the exact same. And then with something like Compsognathus, its buffs that it got were nice buffs, yes, but again, that was a buff that did nothing. It stayed in the meta. Its buff essentially did nothing. It was a nice buff, something that it should have had to begin with, but it did nothing. Like, it didn't go up or down at all, any placement. Okay, and I need to end the video before I go off on more of a tangent. If you enjoyed today's video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Until the next one, stay safe, stay positive, stay hydrated, and until the next one, peace.